Hey friends, today I want to talk to you about horn angle and maybe today let's talk about mouthpiece placement. Now, I know there's a lot of folks that kind of will follow the old adage of like just, imagine the greatest trumpet sound in your head and play along to that. And that's really all you need for trumpet instruction, other than maybe a big tank of air. And I've just found for me that generally doesn't work particularly well. I think if that is what your philosophy is and you are meeting all of your playing goals and desires and you're happy with your progress and everything, more power to you. I think that's a great way to do it if it works for you. It certainly is simple and you can't beat that. But for me, it just never worked. And so I had to break down and like really kind of get into the specifics to figure things out. I know I'm not alone. I know there's a lot of other folks that have been in the same boat. So sometimes it may seem like, boy, you can kind of really get in the weeds of this stuff. But I find certain things fall into like kind of a bag of tricks. Like sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But I find other things are like, okay, yeah, this is really important. And this topic I want to talk to you today about mouthpiece placement, I think is really, really important. And I think a lot of times we think, especially if you are someone with maybe not a lot of professional playing experience or without a lot of private instruction experience where you've had lots and lots of private instruction or lots and lots of study on this. So maybe, if you're a school-aged player, you're a comeback player, I think you can fall victim to this line of thinking. And that line of thinking is, well, I should put the mouthpiece roughly in the middle of my lips, And by middle, I mean both like vertically up and down, but then also side to side. And I think that's a real common philosophy that a lot of people tend to have. But the reality is that most players won't optimize their playing in that way. So I've talked in the past about some of that vertical placement stuff. And today I'll touch on that just a little bit, but I mainly want to talk about the left to right placement. And on the vertical placement, assuming you're not really into any kind of real extremes, your mouthpiece placement for both vertical and horizontal is largely going to be a function of your teeth. So your teeth are going to set where your mouthpiece sits. And by your teeth, I mean both how long your teeth are, long or short. I mean, based on also like their angles and wedges, and if you have malocclusions or just anything like that, all those things are gonna dictate essentially where your mouthpiece goes. And for some people, that's gonna mean it's gonna be right in the middle this way, but for nobody is it ever totally in the middle, up and down. You're gonna have one of your lips, your bottom lip or top lip. I just did that opposite. Your bottom lip or top lip is gonna be predominant, and it might just be 55-45 or something like that, but it really doesn't matter which one it is. So it's whatever is the most natural and comfortable for you, where you're getting the best response in playing. That's what it's going to be. So I wouldn't fret too much about that. Incidentally, if you got more upper lip in the mouthpiece, you're going to be a downstream player, and if you've got more bottom lip in the mouthpiece, you're an upstream player. Upstream and downstream does not have anything to do with the angle of your horn. That has literally zero to do with it. It's just those two things. And it's about the direction of the air when it leaves your embouchure. If you have more upper lip and you're underneath the mouthpiece rim, your air is going to be tilted down, going to be angled down. And if you have more bottom lip, then your air is going to go up. And there's wonderful players that play both ways. So it really doesn't matter. John Faddis, airstream goes up. Arturo Sandoval, airstream goes down. Doesn't matter. It's like great players no matter what. But the thing I really want to talk about today, 4 minutes into this video, is the left to right placement. And I could do this with just the mouthpiece. And so the horizontal placement. So a lot of times I believe I fell victim to this too, probably maybe starting in high school or college. I think so many times when we're young like that, that's when we get these sort of foolish notions, because we're sincere about our desire to get better, and we're trying, but we don't have a lot of knowledge. And so we just try things, and because it seems to make sense, and it doesn't exactly. And so I think a lot of times our desire is we think, like we want to set up like, well, I mean, wouldn't it be best to set up right in the middle and roughly half and a half, like, half and half this way, up and down, and half and half this way. And kind of regardless of what my teeth do, I think that's, the way I should set. But what I've discovered and somewhat rediscovered here recently is that placement left to right, the horizontal placement, is really important. And here's why. For me, if I set up basically right in the middle, which is right here, like that, tilt my head down so you can see it. The problem for that is my front two teeth right here are very flat, which is not a huge problem, like in terms of like my appearance of my teeth or whatever. But the problem with them being flat like that, we'll use this analogy for my two teeth, it being flat. When the mouthpiece goes up against it, maybe this is better. So these are my two front teeth here. When the mouthpiece goes up against it, if it's flat, you can see that it really, with any amount of pressure, and we all use pressure, our pressure is required. The mouthpiece rim is the ligature for our embouchure. So like, and our lips being the reeds, we've got to have that. So pressure is required. But any amount of pressure will essentially push the blood out of the lips. And as we push the blood out of the lips, then the muscles get stiff and the tissues can get abused, which is a problem I've dealt with for years and years and years. If I'd have extended bouts of playing, I'd end up bruising my lips all the time. And I had to be really, really cautious of pressure. Pressure just was a killer for me. I'd use any pressure and just my lips would swell up and the whole thing would just stop. And I know everyone's trying to use like less pressure, using the least pressure necessary. But this was to an extreme, and has been extremely frustrating pretty much my entire trumpet career. And then kind of on a lark and out of desperation, playing a show a couple of weeks ago, week-long engagement show, things weren't working and weren't responding well the way I needed to. And so I just started moving the mouthpiece around my face like, shoot, I got to find some other placement that'll get things to respond. And I just happened to end up going up and to the left for me. So placing up here. And again, this was just sort of a desperate search to find something. And what I found is once I moved up to that spot, all of a sudden, because of the shape of those two teeth, I was now kind of playing on the left front tooth and the tooth next to it. Those teeth had a little bit of an angle. A little bit of an angle that way. And that gave me an opportunity for the mouthpiece to kind of like rock a little bit on there, which I feel like has helped increase blood flow. It certainly has increased my endurance. And the other thing that I really enjoyed is it's increased my ability to use pressure. And it's not that I'm sitting there ripping off the octave keys on my horns, I'm not just like doing that. But man, just a certain amount of pressure is just required for playing, especially if you're doing like high, loud, aggressive playing in horn bands, stuff like that. There is no way to do that without pressure. You've got to use pressure. Everybody uses it. And I found by setting up over here, now to me, it feels like this thing is set like way, way up. I feel like I've got more upper lip than bottom lip. That's just the way it feels. But when I look at it, I can see like, oh, it's really not that high. See, and if you look at it, you can see it's a little offset. Now, when I add the trumpet to it, this is the way I used to play. Basically like this. So the horn was straight out, like that. And it was straight like horizontally, so it's kind of right in the middle of my face. And again, I could play this way and sound okay, and sound good, but I don't have the endurance I need because those lips are being pinned between those two flat teeth. But if I move it off to the side, so here's straight, here's off to the side. I find there's a couple of advantages. One, my endurance is so much better, like I mentioned. And two, I can use more pressure as needed as I get in the upper register. And I found like playing 2-hour rehearsals, 3-hour gigs, way, way easier by finding this kind of optimum anchor point. And so I want you to experiment and try with that. The other benefit that I've noticed that's just for me, which has just been handy, is because the horn's off to the side, when my music's in front of me over here, it's way easier to see. So that's just an added benefit. Now for you, you might find that if your front two teeth kind of have this kind of little wedge shape, like that maybe, that you might find you can play it right in the middle, and you have great endurance, and you may watch this video and think like, this makes no sense. Why would anyone need to change this? But if it's not right in the middle, maybe when you were younger or before, you played off to the sides a little bit, and you saw a video or pictures of it and thought, well, that probably doesn't look as good as what I'd like. I want to look like Doc Severinsen when I play, so I'm going to get a real fun shirt and jacket, real loud jacket, and then I'm going to set this up in the middle, and I'll just keep working and working and working until it works. If that's worked for you and you're playing great, obviously don't change anything, it's fine. But if not, like try these other placements, and you might find, and you can kind of look around and feel, but just start moving around, and it shouldn't take you long. When I started messing with this like in earnest, within 5-10 minutes, I found things that were promising, and I just kept kind of playing with it a little bit over the following week, and it just keeps getting better and better and better. So I want you to give that a shot and see what you think, and I'd love to hear your comments below. Do you find you have an optimal setup by having your horn angled, not straight out in front of you, but to the left or the right? Let me know.